Hi ladies, so we are talking about closures today. We want to know about what a closure is, how to pick a closure, what's the difference between the two. So this is what we're going to be discussing today as mentioned. So we have two typical closures here. These are two closures that are predominantly used and sold by most companies. I mean, there are other closures, but these are the two that are the most popular. So why do you want to wear a closure in the first place? Well, a closure is really good for versatility, for style. If you are somebody that likes color and you don't want to keep coloring your hair and damaging your hair, or you like different textures, maybe your hair, it doesn't match certain textures like a silky straight versus a curly versus a natural versus a yaki. So you would get a closure so that you wouldn't have to worry about blending or even just versatility of style, or preventing chemical damage through color and whatnot. So another thing is that people love to wear these closures if they have any damage of their leave out from past installs. So maybe you have some breakage and your hair is really short, you want it to start catching back up and growing. These are wonderful. So let's just talk about the two of them. We have this one, which is a Swiss lace closure, and this one is a silk based closure. So what we're going to do is we're going to get more in depth in the two, and we're going to discuss the pros and cons with both and what you should look for and what you should consider when buying a closure. So the first closure that we are going to discuss today is probably the most popular of the two. This one is what most people actually wear. This is our Swiss lace closure. So this is what it looks like. So what are you looking for when you're getting a closure? You're going to look for lace color. Do you see how there's this really fine lace here? You're going to find a lace that is going to match better with your scalp. Okay, because when you lay this down, you're going to see a bit of it on your scalp. So you want to get a lace that really does match your skin tone. Now this one is our light brown transparent lace. It's Swiss lace, meaning that it is durable, but it's also soft. There are different types of lace. There are some that are a little bit more coarser, they're a little bit more sturdier. Those are the ones typically sold at the beauty supply store. If you see closures at the beauty supply store, you're going to get a lace that's not this soft and not as pliable. That lace is a little bit more firmer. So this one is pretty soft and is durable as well. So what are you going to look for when you are looking for a closure? So what we have on ours is a piece of fabric going around the perimeter of the closure. We used to sell the ones that had the lace going all the way around and then you would cut it to where you want, but we found that this one is actually better and it's more sturdier. So now when you're sewing your closure down, you have a base to sew on where the lace will not rip. So this is our closure looks like, and this one is a 3.5 by 4, so it's 3.5 inches going across and 4 inches going this way. Alright, so this is the extra piece of lace that always comes with closures. What happens is that when you're ready to install, you will cut off this lace. Okay, it's always left on, it's always like this. So this is what it looks like on the opposite side. So our lace closures are about 100% to 120% density. So do you see how natural this looks? It's not too thick in the hairline, meaning that it's going to have a very natural look to it instead of a very thick, bulky look. Our knots down here. Our knots are unbleached, so you have the choice to bleach your knots on your own. And we do have videos on how to do that as well. And what do I mean about knots? Okay, so for example, if I were to lay this closure on top of my skin, you're going to see these little black dots. Okay? Bleaching the knots, meaning that you're going to bleach those little black knots and you're going to turn them a lighter color. So when you part your hair, it looks a little bit more natural. This actually doesn't look too bad compared to a lot of the other closures that I've come across. This one's actually pretty good. You may not even have to bleach the knots on this one. Maybe just add a little concealer for somebody that's not too confident about bleaching knots. So this closure is very natural. Very, very natural. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's just perfect. So this is what our lace closure looks like. Now, the pros and cons in regards to a lace closure is that with a lace closure, you will see these grid marks. Very close up, I can show you what the grid marks look like, which is the lace. Okay, and it's a little bit harder to conceal that, but there are ways. So you will have to tweak this a little bit. You may have to tweeze your closure into where your part is. You may have to put some concealer or powder down. You're going to have to kind of play with it to get it to match your skin tone, but that's the same with both closures. So let's move on to the silk base closure. So our next closure is a silk base closure. What is a silk base closure? Unlike the Swiss lace closure, you are not going to get the grids on those little tiny squares on this closure, and I'm going to show you exactly why. So as you could see, in comparison, I'll show you quickly again, to this closure where you can totally see right through it. It's transparent, right? So anything that you laid on top of, it's going to pick up that color. Okay, so as you could see, you could probably see right through it. There you go. With a silk base closure, you can't. What this is that there is a silk layer that's right here. So there's a mesh here, and in between the mesh there is a silk fabric, okay? And this closure is not transparent. However, unlike the lace closure where you have to really kind of tweak it for the color and to make sure that it's either matching your part correctly where it can see your natural scalp, or putting concealer and things like that, you will have to use concealer for this to get it, or tweak it, or even how do I put it, or even to kind of get the lace to match the color of your skin tone. This one is a little bit more natural looking, okay? So it is still a little transparent, right? But not so much, okay? So with this one, it looks literally like little hairs are coming right out of the scalp, as you could see. It looks definitely like scalp, but this is for a lighter scalp, so you will have to tint this closure to make sure that it matches your scalp color, but it's not really transparent as the other one, okay? Just a tiny bit, but not as transparent. This closure tends to look way more natural, so you're not going to see those grid lines, okay? As you can see, you cannot see grid lines as you could see with the lace closure. I'll show you up close. You see these little grid marks here? Let's get into focus. Like this, you're not going to see that grid mark. So this closure is a really beautiful closure. I mean, it's going to take some work for you to tweak the color of the actual silk, but other than that, you're going to have a way more natural looking closure with this one. This one's a little bit more money. So overall, they are two very good closures. I predominantly use the lace closure, but I definitely do see the benefit of the silk lace closure. With the lace closure, you're going to find that it's a little bit more affordable than the silk base closure. These ones are mostly cheaper with a lot of companies than the silk base. With this one, you know, there's no line of demarcation where there tends to be a line of demarcation where the silk fabric ends at the base, like right here, right at the edge. So you would have to play with this to make, you know, to get it to look really natural, whereas this one does not have that. I think that they are two really good closures. I just think that in regards to, you know, having a more natural scalp, this would be the better closure, which is the silk base closure versus the lace closure. Any level of knowledge in regards to closure, you know, if you have limited knowledge of closures, any one of these closures will work with you. You just have to tweak it. You have to tweak both of them. Just like your hair, you know, you get a hairstyle, and then, you know, as soon as you install your hair, you still have to cut it and trim it so that it matches your face, your facial structure, or your desire, how you want it to look. So the same thing applies with closures. So you will have to tweak it a little bit. Tweaking meaning that you might have to tint the lace You may have to tint the silk. You may have to tweeze the hairline, maybe to thin it out a little bit to look more natural. These closures are pretty, you know, like I said, they're 100% and 120, between 100 to 100% density. So they're very natural looking. As you can see, they're not thick and bulky. They're pretty natural. But sometimes you get some really thick closures that you do have to thin out the part to make it look a little bit more natural. So that's a form of tweaking that you may have to do. You know, so there's a, you know, putting concealer on it to maybe match more your skin tone. Those are the things that you will have to do. You can't just put a closure on top of your head and just expect it to work out. You really have to tweak it a bit. So anyways, this is question and answer in regards to closures. I hope that this information is helpful to you.